The GNU might finally start working successfully after this massive breakthrough. Let's check it out. So the breakthrough I'm talking about is the confirmation of the terms of reference of the GNU's clearinghouse mechanism. So the clearinghouse mechanism is a dispute resolution body. So sometimes when a certain bill is proposed or the president wants to take a decision, not all GNU members agree on this decision. We've seen this with controversial moves such as the Bella Bill, now the Bella Act, NHI, as well as expropriation without compensation. So in the past, we saw how President Cyril Ramaphosa would perhaps allow opponents of such moves to air their grievances, but then he just goes and signs it into law anyway. With this latest move, however, he may not be able to do this any longer. But before we get into this groundbreaking story, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel? It's completely free, and all you have to do is click on the subscribe button in the bottom left corner of this video. Now let's get into it. So I think it's important for us to understand the background of the situation before we simply lay out exactly what has happened. So, about a year ago, President Cyril Ramaphosa put together this dispute resolution mechanism, as we can see right here in this EWN article. Now, the moment that inspired this was actually during the stalemate between the 10 partners within the GNU over the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, namely BELA. And so when BELA was being disputed, what Ramaphosa said is that he would give all of the opponents of the bill 3 months to air their disputes, and he decided to put it on hold due to some of the more controversial clauses within the bill. But ultimately, as we know, he powered on and decided to sign it into law, hence why it's now the BELA Act. However, one such move appears to be something that he won't be able to do for much longer. After a luxurious retreat for the GNU leaders at the Cradle of Humankind, they decided to adopt the terms of reference for this GNU clearinghouse mechanism. Okay, so here we have a press release from the Presidency of South Africa in which it confirms the adoption of these terms of reference. So, what I'd like us to focus on is exactly how these terms of reference will actually work in practice. So for those who don't know, a whole bunch of parties got together to create this working group that would design the terms of reference and how they'd work out. So the working group has made the following proposals. Firstly, it developed a dispute resolution process flow diagram that clarifies the decision-making process of the GNU clearinghouse mechanism. Secondly, it clarified that the clearinghouse mechanism is a recommending body, not a decision-making structure, so it obviously holds no legal weighting. Thirdly, it proposed monthly meetings, which is probably a good idea given that some members of the GNU say that they never meet with Ramaphosa or for many months haven't seen him. And then fourthly, it proposed that unresolved issues be referred to the Political Leaders Forum, not the President. And this is a good thing, especially after what happened with the Bella Bill, where he basically just went over everybody's heads and signed it into law. And finally, the working group supported a resolution to agree to disagree when consensus fails. Now, that's a little bit of a vague term, to be honest, but it does make sense because obviously you can't please everybody a lot of the time. And if a decision isn't unanimous, you can't allow the law creation process and even just operations on a day-to-day basis to be halted because somebody's not happy. So it does make sense from what we can see. Now, what's particularly interesting about this retreat is that beyond the clearinghouse mechanism, the parties have also agreed to start discussing a lot of the controversial issues where many of them disagree, and this includes foreign relations. So, as we can see in this article from the Daily Maverick, the Democratic Alliance will push for South Africa's foreign policy to be genuinely non-aligned and not ideological. Now, of course, we know for a fact that there have been a lot of disputes over how the relationship breakdown with the United States has been handled. We know that the ICJ case against Israel has also been a contentious topic. And so It's pretty obvious that this is a real sore point for members of the GNU, especially when a lot of them differ so heavily on an ideological level. So, as we can see in the article, DA leader John Steenhuisen explained that there's agreement that we will have a session on national interest like we did with the Lekotla on the economy. At the upcoming Foreign Policy Lekotla, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation Ronald Lamola would be expected to give a presentation on SA's foreign policy, and there would then be a discussion on how we get the GNU on the same page when it comes to foreign policy and where we have issues, where we have differences, and how we can smooth those out. And so one could say that this is a positive step in the right direction because finally the different GNU partners are talking. As we can see, the article then goes on to explain how the ANC has had a monopoly on foreign policy. This is something we already know. We've seen it with the issue with the United States. We saw how it was pretty much a Ramaphosa-led Oval Office meeting, which certainly didn't go down very well. When opponents to the ANC in civil society, such as AfriForum, have decided to take issue, they've been labeled as traitors to the country. Whether you agree or disagree with them, it certainly portrays the country in a bad light, and it shows how the ANC have been totally unwilling to listen to anybody who has an opposing view to them when it comes to foreign policy. But what's particularly interesting about Steenhuisen's statements is that he actually gave proper concrete topics that he expects to be discussed, and they're pretty controversial to say the least. So, Steenhuisen suggested that SA could learn from Eastern countries like India, Malaysia, and Vietnam on how to be non-aligned. Apart from Russia-Ukraine, the DA has disagreed sharply with the ANC on other foreign policy issues, notably on China. It criticized the ANC-dominated government for its decision to evict Taiwan from its office in Pretoria, South Africa's political capital, and forcing it to relocate to Johannesburg, the commercial capital. This has largely been seen as the ANC succumbing to pressure from Beijing. We then see how they touch on the Middle East as well. So, the DA has also criticized the then ANC government's referral of Israel to the International Court of Justice, ICJ, in 2023 for alleged genocide in Gaza and has rebuked it for its close ties with Iran. Now, for those of you who are interested in learning a little bit more about the ICJ case and its likelihood of success, I've actually created a video on this, the link to which is right above, and it's not looking good for the ANC. You know, we do need to remember that the ICJ case was launched only a few weeks after Israel did its response to the October 7th attacks by Hamas. And so we already know that the casualty numbers were nowhere near what they are now by the time that South Africa decided to take Israel to the ICJ. Or should I rather say that the ANC decided to take Israel to the ICJ? Because after all, it was an ANC government at the time. This happened before the 2024 election. And so, going back to the clearinghouse mechanism, this could be a massive game changer in South African politics. For the first time, the ANC is not running the GNU in the way that it ran the country prior to the election. For the first time, the ANC may actually be held to account, where they have to learn that they're not the sole leaders of the country, but rather a partner in a coalition. And while they may feel entitled to lead the coalition due to being the biggest partners, understandably so, they do need to listen to their coalition partners before making certain decisions, because ultimately they do not have 51% or more of the vote. Finally, it seems that democracy is really working in South Africa, particularly the proportional representative version of democracy that South Africa has always subscribed to in the democratic era. Thank you very much for tuning into this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. Also, let me know in the comments section below, do you reckon that this could be a turning point in GNU relations? Or do you think that the ANC is still going to ignore such mechanisms and continue governing as if it is the sole governing body in the country? Let me know. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the power pod.